When we think about retail spaces, we often think about shops, brands, and foot traffic. But what about the spaces in between, the parks, the walkways, the places where people gather, connect to just be? In South Africa, those spaces matter. They shape how our communities feel, how safe they are, and how people experience the areas they live in. I am Vuso Majija, and this is the Fortress Retail Exchange. Across the country, we are seeing a shift in how people think about development. From simply building infrastructure to creating places with purpose, spaces that are inclusive, creative, and connected to communities. To explore this idea, I'm joined by Jonti Brozin, someone who's been in the forefront of reimagining urban spaces through projects like Victoria Yards in Johannesburg. Jonti, thanks for joining our podcast. It's a pleasure to have you. One of the reasons that I'm happy that you've joined us is because I know you're quite involved with communities and community projects. And I want to pick up on some of the work that you've done around Victoria Yards. Now, reading up about Victoria Yards, it's been properties that have been in existence since 1913. Originally, it was a laundry, and I think over time, functions changed, and at some point, they became dilapidated, and at some point, you guys got involved, and you transformed it into this common place where business interacts with community. There's creative arts going on there. So it's a really interesting project. To set the context, maybe give us a brief description of what the project was about, what was the vision, and how do you feel about that? Have you guys achieved what you wanted to what you set out to achieve?
Perfect. Firstly, Vuso, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Just thinking about it when we first met, I'm not sure if you remember, but
I
it was
remember.
in the parking lot of Everton Shopping Mall.
Yeah.
We were introduced by our common friend, Jeff Zidel, very,
Yes.
very good man, a big mentor of mine. And I remember we came to see you about a lease for a clinic for quad care.
Quad care, yeah.
And what I remember most about that was after the meeting, I spoke to Matthew, who was our
Yes,
ops director
I
at the
remember
time.
that, yeah.
And what he said was how refreshing it was to deal with a landlord that truly cared about the community, because quad care is a community-centric business.
Yes.
It's a business which is solving a healthcare issue. And the fact that the landlord bought into a business which was solving a social problem was quite amazing. So, that was the beginning of our friendship, and it's lasted now, like 5 years?
Yes, more than that.
4 or 5 years. At least is still there.
Yes, 100%.
Maybe we should renegotiate it after this. But I think a friendship that can withstand a lease is a good friendship.
Absolutely.
And so, firstly, thank you for that. Look, with Vic Yards, I think it's important to also understand the context, right? Why are we doing it? Why are we doing this? So, look, I was born in Joburg.
Yeah.
I love Joburg. This is my city. I think this is the best city in the world.
Agreed.
Right. We've travelled, we've seen places, but there's something special about
Sure.
Johannesburg. But also at the same time, I'm not delusional. This place needs to be restored. It needs change. It deserves its place as a leading city in the world.
Correct.
Right. So I want my grandchildren to grow up here. Right.
Yeah.
I've got kids, but I want my grandchildren to grow up in Johannesburg. And I don't believe that this would just happen by us remaining silent and us not doing. And unfortunately, the trajectory that we headed, I don't know if they'd want to live here. But how can we take this into our own hands, right? And my belief has always been through business we can make these things happen, right? And at Forever Young, which is the business that I run, that I work with every day, our view is very much around how can we build businesses that solve social problems,
Sure.
particularly in Johannesburg,
Yeah.
right? So that this becomes a place, it becomes a city, it becomes a country that we're proud of, that we want to live in, that our children, our grandchildren want to live in, that our friends that have immigrated or moved to the coast, I won't mention names of other
Yep.
cities where a lot of our friends have moved to, they'll want to come back here, they'll want to flock back here. And so Victoria Yards was exactly that. Vic Yards is in an area called Lawrenceville,
Yes.
which is it's a dodgy spot of town, still is dodgy. But it was an amazing area. It's a super, super interesting neighborhood. It was, borders Bez Valley, it borders Bertram's, it borders Troyville. and these were areas of immigrants.
Sure.
It was an immigrant neighborhood.
Okay.
Very much, these were the first houses outside of town. So if you didn't have cash, this is where you came. This is where you lived. My family, for example, when they fled Eastern Europe, my Oma lived just down the road.
Okay.
In Yeovil.
Sure.
For many years. I think she's a bit worried about me driving into work there now. but it was an area of immigrants and it was an area of entrepreneurship. And so what had happened with Vic Yards was that the owner at the time owned this big piece of land, 18 buildings.
Okay.
But he never really visited the space.
Yeah.
And it was derelict. There was big trouble there. So there was proper, there was dog fighting.
Sure.
There was squatters living there. It was a slum. Effectively, It was a really, really bad place. Yeah. And you have Nando's head office across the road. You've got Gear House around the corner. You've got the Troyville Hotel right there. And if this place would have carried on going the way it was going,
you would have moved.
It was done. No, the area was done.
Yeah.
It was gone. More than Nando's, more than Troyville. It would have been a real issue. You got Ellis Park.
Sure.
That's a crown jewel of this country.
Yeah.
So we got together, a couple of us. A mutual friend introduced me to a guy, Brian Green.
Okay.
Brian Green is an amazing man. If you've met Brian, he's a treasurer of Johannesburg and what he's done. Really amazing person. And together, led by Brian, we came up with this concept of how can we uplift a neighborhood without gentrification?
Sure.
Right? How could we lift the neighbors with us? So we're property developers, we want to make money, but also at the same time we want to do good.
Correct.
So instead of kicking people out, how can we, improve their standard of living? And what we decided to do was focus on what Bertram's was, which was an area of entrepreneurship. And we built light manufacturing.
Yes.
But not just any light manufacturing. We built spaces for people that were world-class makers and artisans. So as you said, we've got artists, we've got furniture designers, we've got glass blowers, really cool things. Tsepo jeans.
Yes.
Tsepo was one of the first tenants.
You're wearing them?
Of course, always. And these are world-class businesses run by world-class business people with the view of hiring people from the neighborhood.
Sure.
So we can't force people to hire people from the neighborhood. But what we can do is we can select tenants that have the same mindset as us.
As yourselves, yeah.
That they want to uplift. And so in Tsepo's story as well, the people he hires live within the area.
Sure.
They walk to work.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful thing. And so the concept of Vic Yards and where it is today is very much that original belief. I mean, things have changed, obviously, because you realize certain tenants work, certain don't.
Yeah.
But it's really around how can you uplift a neighborhood without displacement. And the one kind of, there's a great story. Lael Bethlehem, she's amazing lady. I went on a walk about with her and my dad, actually. We walked around Victoria Yards when we first got involved, when it was still really bad.
Sure.
And she made a comment. She said, she actually quoted a psalm. So I don't know who, I think David probably wrote it, but it was, and she says, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone.
That's David.
Right? And it is such an amazing, she's so insightful, Lal, because she saw it. She saw that here was this place which everybody would say, like, yo, I don't want to get involved.
She saw the potential.
She saw it. And she saw also, when everybody neglects something, if you put the effort in to turn it around, the impact that you could have on all those people around you, and that can then become the epicenter for other amazing things to happen, which we saw recently. Was Vic Yards is actually the thought catalyst for Josie My Josie.
Okay.
When they came to Vic Yards, these guys were like, yo, this is cool, this is fun. And that then led, a whole bunch of other things happened, and then Josie My Josie came about.
Who is Josie My Josie?
So Josie
people who don't know.
Yeah, so Josie My Josie is a movement around bringing together different organizations that want to restore Joburg and put Joburg back to its glory and where it's been. I think there you need a whole podcast series on Josie My Josie.
I think so, and maybe those are people that I'd really like to host.
For sure.
But I like the thought of improving Joburg without gentrification or without displacing the people who are here. And that's something that we can all learn from. I mean, the work that you're doing, the work that Josie My Josie is doing is fantastic. And I think different landlords are asking themselves in this context, South African context, particularly the Joburg context of poor service delivery, poor expenditure on public spaces. How do we interact with that as shopping centers? as an example, I think most responsible shopping center owners will take care of their buildings. They'll make sure that the buildings fit, that the tenant mix is right for their shoppers. They make sure that the buildings are well maintained. But we are now at a point of thinking about how do our shoppers get to our centers. So the pavements or the sidewalks that our shoppers are walking through, is there a manhole where the cover is missing? Is there congestion getting to my center because the traffic lights are not working, etc.? So you often talk about placemaking. What does placemaking mean for you in this South African context, and what can other developers, shopping center owners, learn from your experience at Victoria Yards?
Sure. Yeah, Vuso, so I think on that, and tying into your points before, a shopping center or a building isn't the four walls.
Correct.
Right. I think anybody can build something beautiful, right? You can pay an architect, you can pay a big firm, and they can build you something special. It's about the people. It really is about the people, and it starts with it's an inside out approach.
Yeah.
Right, really, these buildings, and so it's about dealing with your tenants. It's about dealing with your stakeholders. It's about dealing with the invisible. Right. I think a big thing on what we look at is making the invisible visible and the unseen seen.
Sure.
Right. So on a lot of property developments, you inside, right? You close yourself off.
Yeah.
But actually, the most impactful stuff comes from dealing with the people that nobody else, thinks of or wants to speak to, and they're oftentimes the most important people to engage. Right. The hawkers on the side of the road.
Absolutely.
The cleaners, the washing. The guys that clean your car on the windows. Those are the people that truly understand the area, they understand the node, and if you treat them with dignity, with respect, which they deserve, amazing things can happen, right? So, for me, with these places, with these problems, these aren't insurmountable things. The infrastructure will fix; it will happen. But it's really it's an inside-out approach. You've got to make sure that the people that are truly surrounding your center, not even coming in, surrounding your center, feel part of what you're doing, feel part of the community.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I've got a particular passion at the moment, actually, about you talking about hawkers. I mean, in the shopping centers that we own, a lot of them are in the CBDs or in the townships or in rural areas. So the informal trading plays a big portion, a big part of our shopping experience.
100%.
And you'll find that there's a stat that I've repeated before on this podcast, that 30% of the people who shop at our shopping centers shop with the informal traders as well, because that's where the freshest.
You've got to bring them in.
100%.
You can't kick them out. You've got to bring it
100%. So you've got to, in your design, you've got to integrate with that trader. You've got to integrate with that taxi rank, and you've got to think about the people that are living around you, how they get to your shopping center. So traditionally, I think shopping centers have been very transactional. And we've got to think beyond that now. And maybe this is the opportunity in South Africa. But part of that new thinking and part of thinking about community creating and part of creating or connecting with your community, you have to, you find yourself having to interact with different stakeholders. We spoke about hawkers. There are local governments, officials, obviously local businesses, local community activists. In dealing with those stakeholders, whether it's local government, whether it's community activists, what approach would you suggest, or what approach worked for you guys or works for you guys?
No, for sure. So I think, look, business is all about people, right? Yeah. It's all about relationships. It's all about the human beings you surround yourself with. And look, I've been very fortunate in my entrepreneurial journey to have had amazing partners.
Sure.
And it comes across with business partners, the people that we work with,
Yeah.
with on the ground. And a big thing here in dealing with what you speak about is around long-term alignment.
Yeah.
You have to be long-term aligned with these stakeholders. It's easy to be short-term aligned, but then you're only going to be happy in the short term.
Correct.
So how do you drive that long-term alignment? And a lot of it really comes down to early stage discussions, making sure that people are really on board and understanding this, because this is also business, right? And a big fundamental belief that we have as investors is that you have to have fun and make money.
Yeah.
You can't do one without the other.
Sure.
Right? And
you'll hate it.
You'll hate it. And the other side also, you can't just have fun, because you also got to make that money, right?
Correct.
And that really comes down to surrounding yourself with good people and being around people that you want to have a beer with.
Yeah.
You actually after work, or while working, you want to engage. And so a big part of this is relationship building.
Sure.
It's opening dialogue, it's chatting to people. And I think a lot of the friction comes from people's short-term desire to get those profits. A line I've heard recently, which I absolutely love, was man has two legs, money has four.
Yeah.
Money will catch the man, but man won't catch the money. And I think in these partnerships, when you're dealing with complicated ecosystems, as investors, as developers,
Sure.
we have to have patience, and we have to do the right thing. We've got to do it well. We've got to deliver. We've got to deliver purpose. And if we do deliver that, and we are on track for that, then the money will come, then the investments will come, then we can do more.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, I take your point that you've got to sell that long-term vision. I've sat in many community meetings where, when you're doing a shopping center, there's always a threat of a construction mafia, and there's always a threat of people who purport to be community representatives coming. I think you've got to be patient through that, because the more you talk about your vision and you're consistent on your vision, you'll find that the people who are there for the short-term gain get removed from
100%.
Naturally, and that gets done by the communities themselves. So I get that, and I also think that we probably, from a private sector point of view, particularly shopping center point of view, we're probably at a better space now to engage positively with local government, because I think there's a realization that we're all in this together. They need us and we need them. And in this moment, I mean, if you take the Cape Town example, I know some people have moved down to the Cape, and that's what we need to do. We need to make Joburg better. If you take the Cape Town CBD, I grew up there. It wasn't always what it is now. In fact, that town itself, 20 years ago, I remember going to the CBD 25 years ago. In fact, maybe even more. It was dilapidated a bit. Vacancies were high, and there were concerns of crime. And then there was an NGO, the property. It was called the property partners, and they partnered with the municipality, and they formed a SID.
Yep.
And I think that evolved into the Cape Town City Improvement District. Forget what they call themselves now, but that's who effectively manages Cape Town. It's a partnership between government and landlords, and it's long term. And I think that what organizations like Josie Majosi, that's what they're trying to do.
100%.
And there are a few, or in fact, a lot of other landlords like ourselves who own buildings in the CBD. And we are trying to improve the areas surrounding our businesses. I mean, just down the road here in the CBD, we own a shopping center, and there's a park. We did with the assistant in partnership with government. We recently did the Donald McKay Park, but there's another one that we're wanting to get our hands into, because that one talks directly to our shopping center. It's literally 100 meters, 200 meters away. So we're trying to get into partnership with government. So I think my question to you is, if we are all doing these small activities separately, is it not better that we do it in a coordinated way so that the impact is felt? Because you're doing your own work, I'm doing my own work, the other landlords are doing their own work, Josie Majosi is doing their own work, and we're all here in Joburg. But there's no place where we all get together and say who's doing what How can we collaborate?
So Josie My Josie is playing a big role in that.
Yeah.
So Josie My Josie is that collective of people that are, kind of a force for doing good, kind of a coalition of the willing in some ways.
Sure.
So 100%, that is the kind of group that we need. And also, look, it's a small community, right? Small community of property developers. Everyone knows everybody and what they pay for what and who's paying.
It's a handful of people.
So, and I tell you what's also super refreshing is how excited and how keen landlords are to do good. I haven't sat with a landlord, I don't know, in the last 5 years, 10 years, that isn't wanting to do good to improve the lives of their tenants, to improve the lives of their residents.
Yeah.
So there's a fundamental shift that's about to take place in Johannesburg, I believe.
I absolutely think so, because it makes absolute sense for any landlord, because you cannot operate as an island.
Can't,
so
no,
what happens on the outside impacts you, and it's not just landlords. I mean, last week again in this podcast we were talking to someone from Santaco. They've got the same problems. So you may find that if you start doing good, you attract a whole lot of other organizations that are wanting to do good. But yeah, so I think for Joburg, I'm positive about Joburg. I think there's an opportunity. I think I really liked what you were saying earlier on about the work that you do. You don't want to displace people, because other cities that have, call it, improved, there is a risk that people get displaced and property prices go higher, and the people who were originally there are no longer there. So that's something that in the Joburg, in fact, Joburg, that's something we're going to have to look at and consider. Walking towards closing now, Jonti, an organization like Fortress and other landlords, if you were to advise us to say, how do we leverage and how do we scale our efforts to improve public spaces and to improve community connectivity, what would your advice be?
Sure. Look, I'm not sure I can give Fortress advice. I mean, you guys are the experts in this, hey? But I think more generally speaking,
Yeah.
I'm a believer that narrative drives fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
So look, I know I don't look like
Momentum drives fundamentals.
Narrative drives fundamentals.
Okay.
So look, as I was saying, I know I don't look like it, but I'm an actuary, right? And I'm a data guy. At my core, I'm a data man. I like numbers. I like to understand how these things work. And the more I've looked at the data, the more I've looked at these numbers, it always comes back to the fact that if we want to improve those numbers, we have to improve the narrative.
Yeah.
And that then will lead to all the good things happening, right? So I don't think there's an industry which speaks to that more than property.
I agree.
Right? And for me, firstly as a resident of Joburg, right, not as a developer, as a resident,
Sure.
If organizations such as yourselves, such as Fortress, play a leading role in improving the narrative of our city by doing, right, not by talking, but also by doing, what that then leads to is other people believing in it, and then that then driving our fundamentals.
I agree.
So if you carry on doing what you're doing, right, and you're doing the social good and you shared value and you are achieving momentum, you're cleaning the parks, but also at the same time, that's improving your yields, right? It's improving it's dealing with your vacancies. It's improving your tenant relationships. It's improving your customer relationships, and you're able to deliver a better business.
Yeah.
Well, then people are going to copy. People are going to say, this is the new way of doing business. The concept of shared value.
Yeah.
It's not what's good for society. It's what's not good for business is good for society.
Yeah.
But it's rather what's good for society is what's good for business. And so if Fortress can and has really taken a leading role in that change, and then in changing the narrative, for me, that would be unbelievable. Okay. Really, really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And then in closing, I think I have to ask you this question because, as you said, a lot of our people, a lot of our friends are moving to the Cape, etc., etc. As a Joburg born and bred, parent in Joburg, family in Joburg, and you're doing all of this work in Joburg, what gives you hope about the future of Joburg?
Sure. Look, it's a big question, that, and saying that I feel very strongly for. So, look, I don't think I've ever been this optimistic about Joburg, really, right? As investors, we do look around the world at opportunities, but Joburg keeps coming up tops. And I think what's amazing with Joburg is that there's a big distinction between the optics and the reality.
Yeah.
Right? And so, everyone's, this is completely ruined. There's no opportunity here. There's big trouble. But the reality is, go on the ground, walk the streets of Joburg,
That's
go
the
meet the people, go meet them. Huge opportunity. And for me, what is amazing, right? And it's true, right? You can go look at any of the tweets or the whatever that the Instagram posts that have been circulating. Joburg, there's a lot of Joburg infrastructure that's broken.
Yeah.
Right. So there's roads that are broken. There's potholes. There's no electricity. There's hijacked buildings. Those are issues, right?
Sure.
But those are issues that we can solve. For me, the core of Joburg, the reason why I love this place so much, and the reason why the opportunities here are so big, is what we have as a city, what we're known for as a city, is impossible to replicate, and that's its people.
Absolutely.
And for me, because we've got the people element right, the minute those other things start to change, everything falls into place very quickly.
Yeah.
And we're a city that can scale. We're much bigger, right? We're huge. Joburg's a big, big city.
100%.
It's sprawling. And so when things start to change, when the narrative changes, when the fundamentals change, we're going to have a huge opportunity in the city. And so for me, that's why this is the place, and the time is now. It's a privilege to be a
this is the
business
time.
person in Joburg.
Yeah.
And I think just also it would be remiss for me not to mention it, but where we are. This is Constitution Hill. We're having this recording at Con Hill.
Correct.
And what's amazing is that the Constitution of South Africa is the most unbelievable document, right? It's a world-class constitution, and it's really protected us as people. And for me, when we're looking at these opportunities, we need to look at it through the lens of the Constitution. We need to look at our opportunities through the lens of, uniting in our diversity,
Yeah.
right? We need to take our rightful place amongst the family of nations.
Correct.
And so with that lens, with the Constitution protecting us as citizens, with the opportunity that Joburg's presenting us with, the optimism and is huge. But you have to catch a game.
100%.
You can't just sit around and hope for someone else to fix it. You got to goy a little bit now. Hey?
So what you're saying, I mean, I 100% agree, and I'll summarize it like this. You're saying the brain power in Johannesburg is unmatched,
And the kindness.
and the kindness is unmatched. So it talks that narrative you're talking about. It's both a business narrative and also a personal narrative. So people actually need to get involved in some and be active within their communities, 100%. And business need to be active. So for Joburg to be fixed, we need active citizen or active citizenry.
And that's the opportunity.
100%.
100%.
Jonti, thank you very much. This was absolutely fantastic. I always enjoy having a chat with you, and thanks for giving us your time. And yeah, I hopefully will catch you again.
Of course.
With your next project.
Yeah, for sure. Some interesting stuff in the pipeline. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Vuso.
What stands out is that meaningful development isn't about buildings. It's about people. It's about creating spaces that invite participation, sparks creativity, and gives community a sense of ownership. I am Vuso Majija, and this has been the Retail Exchange powered by Fortress Real Estate Investments.